is up? How's it going? Welcome, BTC community, XRP community, DLT community, crypto communities, BLUECREW, and all the communities out there. Welcome to another DL Talk. How's it going, BLUECREW? What's up, Green Giants, Ledger citizens? Guys, let me know if the music is at a good level and the vocal, the whole experience, the visual. Definitely, I think I'm thinking of going back of having music in the background as we're doing these discussions. Been getting some comments, people saying they miss the music in the background while we're talking. They think it's like a fun party while also learning about crypto. I understand that, so you guys just let me know. Can you hear me well enough? Is it very, very clear? I want my voice to be definitely a lot louder than the music, but the music to just be there in the background, so let me know. What is up, Ricky Bustamante, Cryptoholic, DN, Jim D, Sniff? How's it going, guys? RPM in the house. Let me see what you guys are saying in the comments here. Great to have you on YouTube again. Appreciate it, man. It's good to be back. About to get my teeth pulled. Can't wait to feel the pain. Hey, many blessings to you, Sniff. Hopefully it goes all right over there, man. Sound is perfect. Okay, so I gotta remember this sound level for the music. So let me see. It's at 36. Okay, negative 36. I'll just look back at this video to remember that number. But great. Sounds perfect. I like that. That's good to hear. Hardly recognized G out of his Tiger virtual cameo. Yeah, so, you know, we haven't been streaming for a while. We've talked already in our past couple of streams of reasons why. Another part of the reason, my computer completely shut down. And I think it was because a virus ended up compromising my whole laptop. Luckily, I had everything updated to the cloud. I just basically rebooted my laptop, and then I decided to make some changes. I was like, okay, maybe it was this Tiger program, maybe it was this, maybe it was that. There was a lot of stuff that was just overwhelming my computer. So now we're just thinking of just, you know, going straight on. I want to have my Tiger avatar still in Ledger City. If I could still get that Tiger avatar in Ledger City, that's where I would love to, for the revival, the Phoenix Tiger to come back. So yeah, the Tiger's on a little bit of a vacation for the summer, but hopefully it can come back in Ledger City. DN, how you doing? Got limit orders in this crypto down spike? Hell yeah, hoping to snag more good deals on XRP, but uphold limit orders are weak. No, it wasn't a CV virus or anything, and I didn't spill any beverages on my laptop. It was literally, I would try to turn on my laptop and then it would just keep shutting itself down. And it was showing like this blue screen. They call it the blue screen of death for PC. And so I said, okay, I put it in a USB and it rebooted my whole laptop. But anyways, let's get right into it, guys. Thanks for joining in for another DL Talk show. It's good to have all of you guys in here. We're trying to figure out what this new format is going to be for our show. We're starting off with a start timer just so we can have enough people coming in before we go underway so people aren't missing out on information when they jump in. I'm trying to figure out if I can set up a schedule, like a certain time that we start every single day. But you guys know how that is for me in terms of consistency. It's tough. But anyways, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a pro trader, and I'll never tell you what to do. Let's see what's happening in the past day here. It looks like crypto's been in a downtime. This is a good time, in my opinion, to be dollar cost averaging into some of these cryptos. Are we at the bottom? I necessarily don't think so. I actually believe there's going to be a ton of blood coming sometime soon. Not sure when. Could be this summer. Could be in the winter. We'll just have to wait and see. But I do expect. And once again, XRP was going up. So XRP is a little bit different in this argument. But XRP goes up when Bitcoin is crashing, right? That's what happened last time in 2017, 2018. And if we're expecting the same kind of rhythm to happen, which was, during an election year and post-election, that's when we were having a lot of crypto activity. Same thing this past, election year and election. We had a lot of crypto activity and speculation happening. But now with BTC crashing, will XRP find its way to rise? And Stellar as well. Stellar and XRP became really big gainers in 2017 and 18 when BTC was already hitting its top and on the way down. So we'll see if that ends up happening again, if that rhythm continues. But Hasn't there been enough bloodshed? To tell you the truth, man, not really, dude. If you look at where BTC was when it crashed from 16 or what was it, 18,000, somewhere around there, the previous high that it had in the past, it went all the way down to about $3,000. That's 6x in the, in the downward direction. So that means we have room for BTC to go all the way down to about 10K, and that's where I'm speculating. I'm speculating about 8K to 10K bottom for BTC and Bitcoin, but that doesn't necessarily mean XRP is following it all the way down, because like I just said earlier, XRP goes up when Bitcoin was crashing in the last cycle, right? So it doesn't mean it's going to happen. There's so many different factors in the market now, especially with the Ripple and SEC case. XRP just may go down with Bitcoin. And if that's the case, then I'm expecting about a 17 cent, maybe even a 15 cent to 25 cents, somewhere in that range. I know a 10-cent difference is a lot to some people, but I do expect that type of low for XRP if it were following BTC all the way down, which means I'm expecting Solana back at around the $10, $15 range. I'm expecting TRX to go to 3 cent, 4 cent if we go down. But I think this is a great period to at least be dollar cost averaging. I'm not going all in on, this market. Always just buying a little here and there when I have the money that I can afford to lose, right? Being disciplined, you guys. We have a lot of time. There's a lot of FOMO of being like, oh, this is the bottom. The bottom is in. Don't miss out before it turns the corner. Guys, there's so many indicators that 2025, 2020, or 2030 are really when we're seeing mass adoption, or just more and more adoption of digital assets. And especially if we're going with that rhythm of election year, right? Election and post-election year, we got, at least it looks like, about a year or two of this sideways. We're gonna get some relief rallies. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be a lot of times where we get a relief rally and people are going to be like, yep, crypto is back. Mass adoption's happening again. We're getting to the next wave for the next all-time high. And then you'll see it'll probably go sideways. I don't want to act, nothing's a guarantee in this space, but I'm just trying to learn from my experiences in the past. Just like I was very fortunate to learn from the 2017 and 2018 crash, to learn how to take profits when we were getting massive green candles in a lot of cryptos in this past bullish cycle, right? Did I take profits on every crypto? No, but I'm very fortunate that I did take some profits in other cryptos when I was just seeing straight green candles up, right? So hopefully, for people who are going through this for the first time, learning how to take profits and not feeling ashamed about it, right? And not experiencing that FOMO of being like, damn, did I sell too early, right? Or just being hard on yourself. Getting profits out of this market is amazing, right? It's something you should pat yourself on the back on, instead of being like, damn, I sold too early, damn, these type of things. Because a lot of these cryptos aren't going to make it in the future, right? I'm speculating about 100 of these will ultimately survive, and it's going to be the digital asset era. We're experiencing levels of, crypto and digital assets maturing, right? And we're going from the era of cryptocurrency to the era of digital assets. So this change is going to be rough. It's going to be tough to ride, but hopefully we can learn how to take profits along the way, or learning how to short the market if you're that type of trader. Everyone's got their own trade strategy. But once again, guys, I'm just telling you what I do and what I'm doing. I'm not expecting you guys to do anything or to mimic me. Once again, I'll never tell you what to do. Let me catch up with the chat really quick. When's the lawsuit resolution? I mean, any day now. Really? It could be any day now to God knows how long they want to keep pushing this, right? Like, worst case scenario, Ripple could actually lose this in the short term, lose the battle with the SEC. Ripple moves to the UK, right? And then we start getting, we start to see the value of the dollar as the world reserve currency really start to get devalued more and more and more, to the point that it just seems, it already seems dead and worthless. I understand that, but they're just going to keep going in that direction. And then maybe 2025 or 2030, we finally start to see the revival of fiat, because of its use of digital assets to transfer value faster than ever before. And I know a lot of people hate that. They're like, well, aren't we trying to move on from the fiat system? Well, if you're an XRP holder and you're a Ripple supporter, you want fiat to succeed because XRP is going to be the oil that makes fiat and all currencies, any currency, even digital currencies, if even these speculative digital currencies, moving faster, value faster, creating trust where there is none, right? Allowing for transactions amongst untrusted parties, right? So, we've heard Chris Larson said XRP will make fiat stronger, right? So we're seeing a transitional period right now where our perception of the dollar is it's worthless. And then there's going to be a change to where it becomes, once again, high in demand, right? And, once again, that's just me speculating. I could be totally wrong. We could just say, yeah, fiat's going to just die and it's just going to be the rise of digital assets. I feel like that's naive personally, just because, everybody else in the world, like there's such a little group of people that are actually invested in digital assets, and there's people coming in and out of their investments in digital assets every day because they're just playing the speculative game. They're not really wanting to use it in terms of for payments and for value transfer. They want to use it to just speculate and make some money, right? To keep building their fiat stack, if you will, because most institutions and companies and things like that still only accept fiat. Of course, now we have cards like crypto.com and Uphold and, Coinbase cards and stuff that allow you to pay with your crypto, and, the merchant doesn't even have to know what you're paying with. But at the end of the day, I think with monetary policy looming, who knows when it's going to happen, but there's going to be a shift in monetary policy where, the central banks are going to basically tell merchants they can accept any form of value, whether it's like video game credits, stocks, or what have you, airline points, any type of value, and then just convert it to a CBDC. What's going to allow for that conversion? What's going to be the glue, the bridge that allows for instant conversion, reliable conversion? Oh yeah, poor MicroStrategy. Dude, yeah, don't even get me started with Michael Saylor, man. That guy is he doesn't even apologize to people that he was recommending Bitcoin to at 60,000. That is absurd, because his argument's like, well, it's a long-term investment, man. It's going to go up to 100K. It's going to go up to 150K. Yeah, sure. But, not there's people who are like spending a ton of, basically their life savings in this thing and have such respect for your word. I never really cared for Michael Saylor, in the past. I never cared for any of these big wigs, the Kathy Woods, the Elon Musks, when they're saying they're buying and whatnot. Dude, we even speculated when crypto.com arena came up, we're like, this is a great sell signal, right? And it turns out it was, right? But, I definitely been wrong on a lot of cryptos as well. I'm not saying I'm right on everything. But anyways, I've had I've had my first cup of coffee in a while, so my thoughts are kind of getting ahead of my words right now. But and it's such a hot day, it's crazy. But let me catch up with the chat here. What's up, everybody? Appreciate you guys tuning in for another DL Talk. Thanks for hitting the likes on the way in. Thanks to any new subscribers to the channel. It's always good hanging out with the Blue Crew here. Let's see what's going on in the past 24 hours in terms of gainers in the crypto space. We got Render Token making a move up. We've talked about Render Token. We were saying we like where it's at in terms of how far down from its all-time high it is. I still, under $1 Render, I love. So, I hate chasing greens. I'm probably not going to chase this 24-hour pump of a 26% gain in the past 7 days, but I do like Render under $1. This is one of the few layer 2 cryptos that I am very, very, very bullish on, and I really like the opportunity that's at hand to get Render Token because I think it has a tremendous use case, and I think it's a real blockchain technology. There's a real company that's used by real big, the film industry, and, computer graphics artists and things like that. Those who are implementing very highly intensive graphic artwork in their films or, their NFTs or anything would love Render because it allows for the render times through the use of its technology to be a lot slower, right? Minimizing the friction of waiting for your highly intensive graphics to get processed and rendered, right? It kind of reminds me of like a Ripple or an XRP, but for like graphics processing, and I think that's really huge. Weird vibes from those Bitcoin maxis. We got Tony Bags in the chat. What's up, man? John Deaton was just on Fox News. You know, I don't really follow John Deaton and what's going on there, you know. I think it's just really odd that, you know, people are trying to sue the SEC for harming them in their investment. Like, I don't understand. XRP, if you invest in an XRP at 17 cents and it goes up to $1.92, isn't that amazing gains regardless of the SEC's investment? Right? So, you know, and then it crashed like everything else in the market. Everything else in the market crashed as well. So, you know, I'm still very wary of that whole thing. So I'm just deciding to stay put and stay out of it. But, you know, whatever he's doing, and I hope it's all going to work out positively, and I feel like it will. I do believe XRP community is on the right side of history. But if you sold because of a crash or you were scared of the SEC, I mean, you just obviously didn't know where you were holding. But I know that's really harsh, but it's tough love, you know, just coming from my side, right? So, you know, hopefully power to the people and all that stuff. But, you know, I was celebrating the day that the SEC sued Ripple, right? Because this was the gateway to open up to regulatory clarity, and possibly the fastest way to get to regulatory clarity. I understand that we still don't have regulatory clarity, and it's already been about a 1.5 year long battle in this thing. But still, Ripple XRP may be the first truly overall regulated crypto in the space, and there's still other cryptos that'll probably have to go through the same process. Sure, it might be shorter now that we have regulatory clarity by that time, but them being the first to go through that door is a big deal in my opinion. So yeah, we've been really like kind of going in the opposite direction of what most XRP community members are, but I love the XRP community, of course, and you know, whatever they're doing and whatever John Deaton's doing, I hope the best. Of course, you know, I'm just not really involved with it. I'm not really involved in the semantics of it. I'm not really involved in the details of it, and people will probably say, well, you should be, and you're just coming from a point of ignorance. You know, before you say that, I'm not coming from a point of ignorance. I'm trying to provide a different perspective of acknowledging the bigger picture of this game that is being played. Both SEC and Ripple are puppets in this whole overall game. They're just answering to what their employers or the people who are paying them, the central banks, to do what they, you know, what the plan is. And we know what the plan is. These central banks are waiting and trying their best to try to move towards ISO 20022, which is the common messaging standard for payments. And, you know, Ripple's got to hold off. XRP's got to hold off a bit because they already have that technology just waiting there, already test bedding it a shit ton with the Bank of England and a bunch of other central banks, the Monetary Authority of Singapore, Japanese banks. Hell, Soshitaka Katao talking about using XRP, most Japanese banks using XRP in 2025. So these banks are still trying to transition over to ISO 20022, the messaging standard that'll work in tandem with Interledger Protocol. This is the plan. So anything that's happening from now until then is just a game, right? It's just all FUD. I'm broke as a joke, but still stacking ramen's life-saving food for cryptocurrency holders. By the way, guys, please let me know if the music is too loud and that you can hear my voice. I really appreciate it. Somebody said the sound is perfect. I really hope so. But yeah, thanks for the 10 viewers, the 9 likes. You guys are amazing. Where at, G? Are you in California? Yeah, I'm in California. Can I buy you a cup of coffee when I'm there? Yeah, sure, DN. I mean, hit me up or something. Leave a comment in one of our videos someday. Or, you know, DM me on Twitter or something. I agree that people shouldn't be criticizing SEC on that point. Exactly. And you knew what you were getting into. When you get into crypto, it's an unregulated market. So if it's crashing and you're getting rug pulled, you knew it was a gamble, right? Ripple paying $100 million in lawyer fees to fight off the SEC corruption has to be the biggest lawsuit of the century. Yeah, it's crazy. But Ripple has that type of team and has the expertise, right? Remember, they have former members of the Fed, former members of the SEC, former members of the IMF, and all these other institutional bodies, the DTCC, as part of their advisory board. So, if they know how to deal with the, if anybody knows how to deal with the SEC in the space and is best suited to do so, it's Ripple. Central banks are destroying demand by blowing up the middle class. It's all they can do. Exactly, Jim D. It's Ripple Software's clients that would be holding off. And, once again, I know this comes from feels like it's coming from a dark place, but once again, I think it's just tough love. These central banks, you guys, and if you're it's kind of contradictory if you're rooting for Ripple and yet you're hoping that you are winning against the central banks. Because if Ripple wins, that means banking all across the world wins, right? So big central banks, small central banks, correspondent banks, all those type of things. It's a big win, right? So, and I don't think they're going to lose. I think we're going through an evolutionary process. The banks are evolving to become this next era, this next digital transformation, the digital finance. It's going to be an illusion to the people thinking, wow, there's no intermediary anymore. When I'm making transactions, my bank just processes it to anyone, anywhere, anytime. I don't need any permissions to send value anymore, right? There's going to be that illusion. It's always been that way too. And if you don't think so, then I think there's some sort of element of ignorance there. It's the illusion of freedom, right? That has always been, since the beginning of time, since there's been rulers and people who have been under those rulers and whatnot, is the illusion of freedom, right? But, we do get, if we ride off the coattails of these central banks and we do become profitable from our investments in XRP and XLM and playing the game, we can definitely help out ourselves, our loved ones, our community, and ripple out in that direction to provide some change. So that's the positive, right? But these banks, they ain't going to change, man. They're not, they're evolving into something that's just going to be even stronger, creating a whole global web of trust to try to create true globalization, a true, global market, if you will, where you can use any value, anywhere, anytime. It's Ripple software clients that would be holding off, but only XRP, right? Because ISO 20022 can be used without crypto, right? DN, it could be used without crypto, but it works best in tandem with digital assets. It works best. It is being created because of the advent of distributed ledger technology. ISO 20022 wouldn't be necessary if you did, if you didn't have distributed ledger technology at all. ISO 20022 wouldn't be happening. They would just be sticking with the SWIFT system, right? So digital assets and ISO 20022 interledger protocol, which we've seen from the BIS and SWIFT acknowledging it, interledger protocol and ISO 20022 work best in tandem. The best thing to work with ISO 20022 is interledger protocol, because there's two modes of transactions on interledger protocol: atomic mode and universal mode. Atomic mode is where trusted parties, so if a bank already has a previous existing relationship with the bank, they can decide to use whatever they want for the payment and however long it's going to take. But for untrusted connections, which is 90% of connections through the internet, and connections between one bank and another that hasn't been previously connected, what is going to be that common standard, that common language that they use to make the transaction? And in universal mode, it automatically uses XRP. So that is in the paper itself. Universal mode uses XRP by default. There's no choice in that matter. The only time that the transacting parties have a choice is when they already have a trusted connection, right? I know I repeat this a lot, by the way, you guys, and people who tune in every single day. I know I repeat this a lot, but it's still something that I feel like doesn't really sink in to a lot of people in the crypto space yet. Hell, a lot of people in the crypto space don't even know about ISO 20022 and what the hell is coming from ISO 20022, right? Like, I'm amazed that there's people who love looking into cryptos and do heavy research into NFTs and all these things, but have no clue about what's coming with ISO 20022. And I think it's very necessary, in my opinion. They are expanding their optionality uses for currency. Bitcoin maxis expect everyone else to stop innovating into this digital economy. Exactly, man. I mean, Bitcoin maxis, they're just full of contradictions, They're full of contradictions. The only reason you're even a Bitcoin maxi is because you became rich off Bitcoin. So, and once again, I'm not, bearish ultimately. Like, I feel there is a possibility Bitcoin can die because of just if they can't find any solution other than mining the crypto. But I could see it as a collectible of some sort, right? It could be a default currency that people use because, people have invested and maybe made a lot of money off of it. Once again, we're going into a world where you can use any form of value at any time. But what is that glue? What is going to create that trust where there is none, right? And that's where XRP comes in. That's where XLM comes in. I'm sure Algorand and many others. But with Interledger Protocol already being acknowledged as the best to be in tandem with ISO 20022, that means XRP is going to be being used a lot, right? Internet of value, the original vision, right? The internet of value. DN, that is awesome. No. In the XRP is not in the ISO 20022 spec. It's here. I'll show you really quick. But yeah, guys, just really quick, cryptos that are up in the past 24 hours because I know people want to know. Render token, very excited to see that. Pre-search, Kava. Kava is getting some really good hype recently. And Kava's now getting close to $2. Love seeing Kava going up to that point. I can't wait to see more and more momentum. Apparently, there's some really big news coming out for them as well very soon. Tezos is up a little bit. XDC has had some major news, but we'll get into that when we go to our Twitter news segment. Let me just show you really quick Interledger Protocol by Stefan Thomas and Evan Schwartz here, the creators of it. And remember, Interledger Protocol was started in Ripple and was going to be a product of Ripple, and then Ripple realized this is something that's bigger than Ripple itself and can actually be used in tandem with RippleNet and ODL, right? So here we go. Let me see if this is the one. I'm not sure if it is, guys, so give me a sec. Let's see, where's the universal mode? That's all I want to look at is universal mode. I don't think this is the one. Give me a sec. Here we go. Okay. So this is from Interledger and written by Stefan Thomas and Evan Schwartz. Where's universal mode? That's all I need to look for. Nope, this is not the one I'm looking for either. It doesn't really expand too much on what universal mode is. Give me a second, guys. Thanks for your patience, everybody. We've shown it in the past. It's hard to find some of these PDFs right off the cuff, so I just appreciate everybody's patience on this. Okay, give me a sec. All right. Maybe this is the one? Ay. Yeah, I'm having a hard time finding it, but you are seeing the acknowledgement of both atomic mode and universal mode, but I'm trying to find the specific one that says universal mode uses XRP by default. That's the important one to get across here. We've done it so many times before and shown so many people like on our other streams. For right now, I'm just like not being able to find it. I'll try to find it later and then show you guys, but yeah. You guys know, like OG Blue Crew members definitely know that I've shown this multiple times and I've shown universal mode using XRP by default. Yeah, here, I'll keep trying. Let me put some music in the background to keep you guys occupied while we're doing that. Okay. Here, I'm just going to open up a bunch of these links and then see what happens. I know which type of link I'm looking for, though, so that's a good thing. Okay, let's see what we got here. Nope. Nope. Not this one. Oh, I think this may be it. Nope. Oh, here we go. Yes. Okay. So atomic versus universal mode. The Interledger protocol can be implemented in two modes, atomic mode and universal mode. In atomic mode, notaries are incorporated into the system. They are an ad hoc group that is used to verify and validate transactions. Typically, atomic modes take place between trusted connector nodes between banks or financial service companies that might relate to each other. The universal mode does not require notaries and can work between untrusted connectors. It uses Ripple's internal cryptocurrency, XRP, to facilitate transfers. The transfer is accompanied by time constraints. If it does not take place within a certain time frame, then the transaction is annulled. This is a way for both untrusted parties to know what to expect when they're transacting with each other. They know to expect, hey, this transaction is either going to happen quick and efficiently, or it's not going to happen at all. And that's the type of transparency that XRP does provide, right? All right, so let's go into some of the Twitter news here. Let me catch up in the chat really quick. Appreciate everybody tuning in. What's up, y'all? Rye guys saying we're chilling, G. Thanks for streaming. No worries, dude. Yes, G, we appreciate what you do. Thank you. I found the same Investopedia link. Nice. Yeah, but I feel like there's other links that show, you know, the differences between Interledger protocol. Like I think this a protocol for interledger payments, and then if you look at this old but gold interview between Chris Larson and Stefan Thomas. Here, let's check out Google Talks here really quick. Check this out. This is always fun to revisit because it just shows that they are very, very focused on XRP being a main driver for liquidity, right? So in the beginning, you have Stefan Thomas doing a presentation on Interledger protocol, right? And they talk here, Chris Larson and Stefan Thomas. Let me see. Where's this presentation at? Oh, here we go. So Interledger, it uses these connectors, right, for all these types of payments. And this connector is XRP, right? All the little twirls that you're seeing here, that's XRP making the conversion, right? Using a digital asset to make it fast. And you can see it right here, XRP, from ACH through XRP to SEPA, right? In 3 seconds or less, right? Settlement instantly, right? That's what XRP is really good, is at payments finality, right? And here you go. You got the application layer, transport layer, the interledger layer, and then the ledger layer, which we know what the ledger layer is, right? So the IP, the ILP underneath the IP. And as you can see here, XRP pay chain, Lightning, and ACH, but end-to-end principle, as many functions as possible are handled between endpoints at the ledger layer, right? So then he does a transaction from scratch, and it does it within seconds, and then they allow for questions to kind of come on up. So let's check out this question and answer section really quick. It shouldn't take too long, but I think this educates a lot of people, especially people who are just kind of coming into digital assets and stuff like that. So, all right, here we go. It is a good bit, so we'll go in between. This might take up the rest of our stream, but I think it's worth like always getting a refresher on this and never forgetting what the the mission is for Ripple and XRP here. So I'll stop in between each question and have a talk with you guys, and then we'll go back. All right. So I guess this is what we're focusing on today. Let me just share some really quick news before we get into that. Former Google CEO says the Web3 vision is correct. The tech to make it happen needs to get built, though, and it is getting built, right? Cypherium's CEO creator talking about differences between layer 1s and layer 2s. Layer 1 solves the blockchain trilemma. Layer 2 is solving one or two of the trilemmas and lets layer 1 solve the rest. So if a layer 1 could solve the trilemma, then why bother using layer 2s? And that's kind of sort of the similar thinking that we've had. And that's why I'm very heavily focused on just layer 1 investments. But of course, we're still in a speculative market, and a lot of volatility, higher volatility, if anything, happens to these layer 2 solutions more so than these layer 1s. But, we do get high volatility with layer 1s as well. And I'm more bullish on those because that's what all these layer 2s are building on top of, right? That's what they're using, right? And that's what we like is the use. Bagman reminding everybody, Ledger City coming in 2 days. 2 days until the release. We also got Stellar saying one of Europe's major crypto exchanges has joined the speeding locomotive of USDC on Stellar. This morning, Whitebit announced their platform's integration of USDC on Stellar. Right, so continual growth is what we like to see from the Stellar community. Excuse me, had a burp there. Payments Canada talking about integrating crypto into the payment system and the use of stable coins, right? So Payments Canada, comprised of a lot of big premier, payments companies and banks that visit that YouTube channel and talk through Payments Canada Summit, talking about integrating crypto. Digital assets aren't going away, guys. We are on location. So Central Bank Payment News saying we are on location in Athens at the Central Bank Payments Conference in Athens, Greece, y'all. Great session right now on the role of crypto and payments with Banque de France, Monetary Authority of Singapore, and guess what? Ripple. That's right. And remember, Ripple and Monetary Authority of Singapore working a collaboration with Mojaloop as well, and setting up that CBDC Center of Excellence in Singapore, right? Kava is the fastest growing blockchain for protocols. Kava now has more protocols and transaction volume than Cardano. Interesting fact there. I mean, Cardano could definitely make a comeback, though. We'll see what ends up happening with Cardano. It could be a major sleeper with ADA. Global ID saying, in order to achieve our vision of owning your identity and your money, Global ID is transitioning to a non-custodial wallet solution. And guys, this is going to be, we were talking about the premiere of Westworld and what they're foreshadowing in this season so far. And remember, the last Westworld foreshadowed a lot of what was going to go down in 2020. People wearing masks, a virus that's about, the Floyd incident. So there was a lot of major events that were foreshadowed in that season. So I'm keeping my eyes out on Westworld this season to see what other major events they may be foreshadowing. And so far, what I've been seeing is social scores, right, for people. There's like a social score for people in that future, and a hell of a lot of transparency. Everything being very transparent, right? So very interesting there as well. Royal Bank of Canada already uses Ripple. Mike Kavanaugh, we were just showing Imagine 2025 PDF by Royal Bank of Canada 2 streams ago, and Royal Bank of Canada calling XRP a store of value, right? So that was very interesting to see. Payment infrastructure news. Guys, this is huge because this is coming out from the source for ISO 20022 news. And so, man, I'm harsh on XDC, and I'm still skeptical on it sometimes. But man, it's hard to ignore these like pieces of news coming out from a major ISO 20022 news source, an alternative solutions platform for quickly and securely sending ISO 20022 compliant financial messages. Impel official and Zinfin official announced the official launch of Impel. Confidently, they speak of next-gen alternative to Swift and SEPA. Man, this is huge for the XDC network, guys, and XDC is on a red day today. I mean, it's, and at a really nice price, super early days still for XDC. Man, this made me really, really turn the corner and be, ultra bullish on it. And anytime, people are talking about XDC, I'm going to stop trying to act like, oh, it's not better than XRP. I still believe XRP is the top dog out of all these digital assets, and I think it's like the clear innovator and leader. But XDC looks like it's definitely going to survive in this digital, internet of value world, along with XRP, the XLMs, the Algorands, the HBARs, the Quants, all these institutional ISO 20022 focused type of cryptos. XDC is looking so good right now with the type of collaborations that they're building, and especially the type of news sources that are focused on ISO 20022 talking about XDC. You gotta love it, man. Gotta love it. So really big news for XDC right there. Gotta give them a shout out. As non-bank digital payment services arise, local communities gain access to financial tools. Watch this short clip and learn how Mojaloop works towards financial inclusion with the emergence of non-bank digital financial services. I'm going to always be spreading Mojaloop news, guys, because not enough people know about Mojaloop in this space. Only 16 people liked this post, and I'm the only comment saying people in the digital asset space need to recognize Mojaloop more. It's really sad, just the ignorance that's going on with this major nonprofit that's happening right
The
here.
last mile is the longest mile. For the 1.7 billion people worldwide who may have a mobile phone but don't have access to formal banking services. The last 10 years have brought about great strides in financial inclusion. The emergence of digital financial services, including mobile money offerings, have made relevant and valuable digital financial tools accessible in local communities, using simple feature phones and last-mile agent distribution networks that ensure access to cash. Help shape the future of digital financial services for all. Connect and learn more at mojaloop.io.
Mojaloop, one loop for all. Everybody on the level playing field. Everybody having access to the same payment experience as anybody else. Nobody having an advantage in terms of the payment experience. That's what this level playing field's all about, and that's what's happening, right? That's why it's so important to have standards in terms of the payment space. That's why ISO 20022 will be the standard globally for payment messaging, because all these banks, all these institutions having the same payment experience. And then, of course, like we were saying earlier, untrusted parties trying to transact with each other. What is going to be that standard that connects them, right? To allow for a similar payment experience, even, similar to something between a trusted connection. What is that one digital asset or platform or messaging standard like ISO 20022 that they can trust when they're sending a transaction to an untrusted party, right? That's going to allow the payment to just go through, right? If XDC, that's interesting. I mean, it's very odd that XDC is changing the supply at any time, man. But there's definitely a lot of questions and questionable things amongst a lot of these cryptos, right? But you're seeing just these types of partners developing with these platforms, right? So it does suck that they are changing supply like that. And I haven't done enough research to really know how they're going about it. But I'm just looking at, money that is involved, the institutions that are involved, and that's kind of guiding the way that I'm investing. But I'm not saying that's the best way to go about it. I just need to do more research of how that's going down. But yeah, good points there, Bird Dog. Good points. Any thoughts on Energy Web token? I mean, I like it because Ripple has acknowledged Energy Web before, right? And I think they have a collaboration with them, right? So anything that's connected to the Ripple family in some sort of way or Interledger protocol in some sort of way, I'm very bullish on or excited about, right? Or willing to speculate on, even if it's a little bit of money. And that's the beauty about this digital asset space. You could throw $5 in on something and then just build it up over time. There's no rush to just be throwing all of your money and FOMOing in and being like, I'm just going to throw a ton of money in right now, you know? For me, it's just little by little, here and there. What can I afford to lose? What can I mentally stick out if it were to crash big time? You know, that type of stuff. Yep, exact. Hey, Mike Kavanaugh. I mean, it's like a communist capitalism, if that makes any sense, right? It's like give everybody equal opportunities and make everybody force everybody to be transparent about what they're doing and making sure, like all these social scores and nobody you know, if you're doing something illegal, those type of things like all these that's what the level playing field is everybody being judged at the same level playing field, right? I'm having a hard time trying to explain it, but I think I get you guys understand what I'm getting at here. And it makes sense because the kind of world we're living in right now is causing so much division and so many people trying to figure out what is right and what is wrong that I could see it where we just eventually all just have to agree on a certain standard, right? A standard of living, perhaps, a standard of income, a standard of these type of things, because it's just causing all these like there's a lot of fragmentation is what's going down right now. High inflation and mounting growth headwinds call for quick and decisive action by central banks. Yeah, you guys have been saying this for 5 years
Regretfully,
now,
there are many
right?
risks.
So what does quick mean to the BIS, right? But let's hear what Augustus Carstens has to say here. What risks do we see for the global
Regretfully,
economy?
there are many risks at this stage. One is, and primarily for central banks, is the spike in inflation that has become a global phenomenon. This has followed.
The people who decide, Nicholas, are the people who control monetary policy, right? Who control the regulatory landscape, right? Those are the people who are deciding the standards. The BIS, the IMF, all these central banks are deciding on ISO 20022 for the messaging standard. And, we assume that they're deciding on XRP for the settlement standard, right? For the payment and settlement standard, or Interledger protocol for the payment and settlement standard, right? Because they've decided on it.
Major commodity price shocks, bottlenecks, change in the form of demand between goods and services. If inflation
Bird Dog saying, I decide for my yacht.
is not brought under control, eventually that will also affect growth. Well, I think it's premature to say. At that time, the energy shock was far more virulent. In this case, it's not so large, but it is broader in terms of energy sources that has affected food items and also the starting conditions. Well, they need to look very careful at their monetary policy stance. They certainly will need to tighten financial conditions. Hopefully, each one of them will time it appropriately, will decide the appropriate speed. Therefore, we can have soft landings. But in general, it has to be timely and decisive. One of the aspects that we are noticing and that we have reflected it in the annual economic report is that the space of fiscal and monetary policy has been to a large extent depleted. Therefore, we should not depend so much on fiscal and monetary policy to induce economic growth. We need to pass the baton, so to say, to structural policies, and therefore other sources of growth are put in place so that we can manage to have stability with growth.
This is the guy who's in charge of the same guy who's addressing the food crisis. That's hilarious. Guys, Asia Digital Bank. So moving on to the next piece of news here. The Asia Pacific Investment Bank, who has heavy connections with Iris, the IRITA.net, and Blockchain Service Network, now creating an A-Bank super wallet. Manage all your cross-border financial transactions on the compliant and safe A-Bank super wallet. The A-Bank super wallet is designed by the Asia Digital Bank, an institution approved by Lauban FSA of Malaysia. Transact with peace of mind now. A-Bank Asian DB. Your go-to app for cross-border payments. So very interesting to see that there, right? And you see things like USDT, USDC, and then other digital currencies or other currencies that are listed on there in that super wallet. So just keep in mind there now that this was a development that happened in I think in a half a year or so ago, and was happening in collaboration with IrisNet and IRITA. So I'm just sharing to the people who maybe are on who are into Iris and what they're doing. It's one of those cryptos that I'm really bullish on as well, and just kind of sharing the news there of what's going on with Asia Digital Bank. Coil responding to Mojaloop, right? We are pleased to announce the formation of the new Mojaloop CBDC Center of Excellence Working Group, created to guide the direction of the Center of Excellence's financial inclusion initiatives in Singapore. To view a list of our members here, you can learn to get involved and visit this link. And you see there, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Coil, Google, Modusbox, Monetary Authority of Singapore, Ripple, Red Compass Labs, and Sibrin, right? So some major institutions involved in Mojaloop here, you guys. Nothing to joke about, and good to see Coil acknowledging and celebrating for Mojaloop, right? Also, Ripple talking about CBDCs. Today we're launching the CBDC Innovate Challenge with a total prize pool of 197K. Participants will use our XRPL CBDC sandbox to drive financial inclusion, interoperability, and retail payment solutions. Initial round submissions due August 25th. Very interesting, right? Towards the end of August. I'm interested to see who the winners of this are going to be and who they announce. Alex Cobb making it aware to the XRP community, in 2 weeks, Jed McCaleb will have sold all of his XRP. That's going to be an historic moment, and I think it is going to be a very historic moment. Like, wow, we're finally here where Jed McCaleb has sold all of his freaking XRP. That is great to see, guys. That is amazing. So just happy that guy's just going to, I don't know why if Jed McCaleb knows XRP is going to be the standard or one of the standards, I would think he would probably still be wanting to hold some XRP, but of course they have these contractual obligations where he does need to sell some of his XRP, and it seems like it has to be all of his XRP. But, why would he be wanting to miss out on the future of finance, right? The internet of values. So, he wouldn't want to hold any XRP. I don't care how bitter he is towards Ripple and the XRP ledger. He still helped create the XRP ledger. He should be holding some, right? But that's just my 2 cents on it. Big news coming this week for Kava, says Scott Stewart, so that's good to keep an eye out for. A very recent German language analysis on future prospects of ISO 20022-based SEPA requests to pay in Europe. Unfortunately, RSTP will probably not be a cause for concern among credit card and wallet solution providers for the foreseeable future. All right, so that's the news that we had today coming from Twitter there, you guys. Appreciate you guys sticking that out. And let's just go into the deep reds, and then we'll check out that Google Talks to wrap up the video. Big time gainers in the past 30 days have been RSR. Good to see RSR doing its thing. Good to see Celsius Network doing, or not Celsius Network. Never mind about that. I totally forgot Celsius. What's going on with Celsius there? Cypherium picking up some momentum. 12% in the past 30 days. Not too bad. But what are the deep red cryptos that we're looking at here? Osmosis Zone at 78 cents, looking pretty damn brutal for what's going on. Juno Network at 264 right here. Yeah, that Cosmos ecosystem. These are two really big parts of that Cosmos ecosystem in Osmosis and Juno. So they look like pretty good, deep reds to be jumping in on, especially with 90% down from their all-time highs. That looks like a really good opportunity there. I don't know how people feel on Harmony and One, but this is looking like a good opportunity at around this time too to dollar cost average. AKT with staking rewards, same thing with Osmosis and Juno with their staking rewards, looking pretty appealing right there. Um, let's see what else we got. Clayton, part of the blockchain service network, collaboration with HBAR, major partnerships as well. Clayton looking really appealing here at 24 cents. Gala, down 78%, but still up 583% on the year. So I'm not going to be saying this is a good time to be jumping in on Gala because it could still go down a ways for Gala. We could see Gala dip under a penny again in the future, and to be mentally prepared for that for sure. Filecoin at 559 looks really appealing. Cadena, Alliance Block, Vector Space, Near Protocol, Atom, Iris, Jasmy under a penny looks really nice. So these cryptos, looking just still so good, still so good. But yeah, could they go down more? Definitely. Definitely. But good time to start dollar cost averaging? Yes, in my opinion. Just a little by little here and there, right? All right. Let me see what's going on in the chat, and then we'll jump into this video. Let me see what's going on. World Economic Forum supports these ISO coins, and they also say we will own nothing and be happy. Sniff, yep, it's very, very sad. I just see this whole ISO 20022 thing being contrary to what cryptocurrency is. It's supposed to stand for. It's like everyone who's bullish on XRP is bullish on being led by the FEMA camps. Sniff, exactly. It is very, it's contradictory because it's like we're doing this celebration because we found the crypto that, for example, that banks would like to use. And so we're going, yeah, we're celebrating because we're going to be riding off their coattails and have our type of financial freedom and try to bring in or try to educate people, as many as possible, about what's going down, right? Because if they're going to transition to this regardless, right, the powerful people are going to do what they do regardless. Banks are going to migrate to ISO 20022 regardless. They're going to use digital assets and distributed ledger technology regardless, right? So with that reality and that brutal reality and understanding that, what's the only option is to just ride off those coattails so we can have some semblance of financial freedom or, as much as we can, and then try to change, our community. The problem with a lot of people who are invested in, let's say, cryptos like Bitcoin, there's a lot of contradictions there. You're hoping for the big money to come in to Bitcoin so it can make you rich, right? So might as well just be in on XRP and XLM then, because those are already cryptos that were from day one geared towards financial institution adoption, right? And also another contradiction with crypto is thinking that, there's not going to, like, this sort of utopian idealism that comes with it that's just very unrealistic, right? And doesn't seem like it will probably happen. So, it's like either just accepting the brutal truth, big money and trillions upon trillions of dollars is going to come into this market. And are you into the right projects? Are you going to ride off those coattails, or are you just going to be, somebody who didn't have any digital assets at all and then can't do anything about it and has to be a slave to the system, a continuous, either way you're a slave to the system, but what type of slave are you going to be? Are you going to be a slave who, can provide for themselves and doesn't have to depend on the government to continuously, provide for them? Or, are you going to be somebody who's just a beggar, basically? Like, I'm not trying to make this dark image, but it's just the way that things are moving forward, right? I'm not trying to scare people or anything like that. It's just, time and time again, these things, just happen, right? It's, and, a lot of cryptocurrency and a lot of people are trying to change the whole world, versus just trying to change themselves, trying to help their loved ones, their family, working with a smaller perspective instead of this grandiose, gotta change the whole world and, try to make the whole world conform to my perceptions, right? I'm voting for GDLT for North American president. Please don't. We're invested in the NWO. Let's not kid ourselves. Might as well get a cozy cell. Exactly. It's gonna happen anyways, guys. Whether we, it's gonna happen anyways. That's all I'm saying. It's continues to move forward. They have a grander focus. They have all the resources. They have all the money, and people are so lost in their own little individual worlds, and this, these right and left battles, these really divided perspectives. It's really hard to just get everybody to unite under one purpose, and that's what they don't want. Governments never want this. They never want a united people under a certain principle. They don't want that. They love that there's continual division, and that, people are buying more and more and more into it, is the division. And people could say, well, that's your perspective, GLT. You're buying into the fact that everybody is divided and all this stuff. No, I can only go off what I see and personal experience. And from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of people who want to take convenience over the hard road, over doing all the hard work. And I feel like I'm doing a lot of the hard work to try to set myself up for financial freedom, for a better, financial opportunities in my life, right? To try to unite more and more people. But first, changing myself, then trying to, unite and help my loved ones. I'm very much about inside out, right? I'm not trying to just get the whole world together and trying to unite, because then that is such a large task. And if you can't even get your loved ones and everybody else together, then how are you going to even do this with a whole mass of people, right? So that's a long road. It's a lot of hard work. And a lot of people are very gluttonous, are very overwhelmed with consumption, right? And it's a brutal truth. I'm an optimist overall. I'm an optimist in individuals being able to change themselves for the better, and everybody is inherently good. But a lot of people, as life goes on, become, kind of forget that, right? And forget about hard work. There's a lot of people who do work hard, but there's, so it gets really complicated is all what I'm trying to say, I'm going to be an upper class slave. Mike Kavanaugh, there you go. Thank God for drums and drugs. Calizona. Dude, not going to lie, California is feeling like an island over here. It is humid as hell. It is hot as hell. There's random rain that happens now, like these summer rains that have been happening, that are happening during like hot days and humid, type of days. I'm like, are we on an island? It's insane. We all hope for our own private people's banks with our XRP bags. Exactly. We're all going to be hanging out with XRP bags and be on our own private island anyway, having our own private utopia. So it's all good, I'm going to make this the greatest reset ever. Climate change is real? Hey man, I don't know, but I'm just saying, like, weather has been very weird. And, I do believe in weather manipulation. I'm not sure if climate change is real, but I kind of believe in being able to manipulate weather, though. To make you think that climate change is real, if anything, right? I think the Earth is going to be fine. Earth is going to do what Earth does. Now, for humans, our future, I mean, we're not doing very well to try to save ourselves right now. So, and you could be saying that's a very bitter perspective, but it's just what it is. It's just what it is, right? I'm not trying to place any judgments or anything. I really hope for the best, and I hope we all see the promised land, and I hope we can all live in a happy, beautiful harmony, right? But it's going to be hard work to achieve that. And if people aren't willing to put the hard work to do it, then it's not going to happen, right? A lot of people just want to be entertained, have their eyes glued on a screen, escape themselves as much as possible because they're afraid to actually confront who they are, right? Sharknadoes are next. Yeah. Yep. Economic warfare and peasantry enslaving. And it's not a war. People keep saying it's a war between us and them. It's not a war, man. It's just them continuously doing whatever they want to do. They don't feel any fight. They feel zero of a fight. They don't. They, to us, we're flies, man. I mean, to them, we're flies. That they really don't feel our impact whatsoever. We're doing like they are massive herders, and the sheep are all just doing what they want. You know, like I know this sounds really, really sad. I'm not trying to make it sad, guys. I'm trying to just like, you know what? I saw a wonderful George Carlin documentary, and it was a great. Somebody explained it really well. Like George Carlin became kind of very bitter in his comedy and dark in his comedy when he got older, and people were saying, "Oh, it's just because he's an old man," and all these type of things. Dude, when you're a comedian for your whole career and you're trying to inspire people and make them think, right, about how funny it is and how stupid or how crazy this culture that we've created, this whole like kind of consumption culture that we've created in our world, and you just see it never changing, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse, and you keep fighting that battle to try to inspire people to change, and then you just continue seeing that more and more people keep what's it called, the overpopulation and things like this. I'm not saying we got to limit the amount of people, but overpopulation isn't helping in terms of how to turn the tide and getting people to unite together, because then there's just more and more different perspectives and a lot more people to have to try to get together to unite and stuff. And he was an overall optimist or an optimistic idealist, but you could just see it's like he's just seen through all the decades. The guy was alive for like what, 5 different decades, and he just kept seeing the same thing over and over and over again, and it never changing, right? Could it change? Sure, and I hope it does in the future, but right now it's like people need to wake up, they need to get together, they need to unite, they need to put aside a lot of their BS minuscule differences and try to get together and realize what the hell is going on here, right? There's a big club and we're not in it, right? And that big club is more united than we will ever be right now. Yeah, exactly, man. Life is beautiful. Like, I'm not trying to spread any darkness here. I'm not trying to spread any pessimism or nihilism. It's just how like the comedy, right? The comedy of it. Comedy of it all. Us expecting change and without having to do anything about it, right? Alibaba is developing software to assign everyone their individual carbon footprint to accompany the social credit score. Crazy. California is being reset by nature and in the targeting reticle for its moral crimes. Probably. I need to get the hell out of LA. I need to get the hell out of California. I need to get the hell out of the US to be honest, man. We are a mild irritant at best. Exactly, Mike. Yep, macro level stuff affects how we invest. We gotta limit the number of people. I mean, I don't know if we have to or not. I'm just saying that it's really tough to try to get more and more people together when there's just an overwhelming expansion of more and more people, and that's going to be tough. Okay, so anyways, yeah, move to Portugal. Yeah, Lost Angels. Yep. How is gas in California? Terrible. It's close to it's basically $7 plus right over here. This is all so ridiculous. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so anyways, let's jump around and let's get into this just kind of reminding ourselves of the Ripple mission and their focus on XRP, and yeah, enjoy this question and answer. I'll stop it in between each question and answer and just kind of review it and talk with you guys about it. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and let me know if you hear it well. Here we go.
Up to questions from you guys. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks for the presentation again. Yeah, so there's like a lot of different coins that deal with payments, like Ripple, Litecoin, Stellar, for example, that I've heard of. Can you go like a little bit over what's the the basic differences between all those different payment platforms? And then also, do you see like one payment platform just dominating and we all just use one of them, or can these somehow like live in harmony, kind of like USD and euros and whatnot?
Yeah, maybe I'll do this. So on the second part, I think it's going to shape out a lot like what you're seeing with fiat currencies. I mean, you know, the world kind of has 4 majors, maybe 5 majors, and then there's kind of a, you know, everything else. And I think that probably plays out here simply because, particularly with this sort of Wall Street wave that's coming, a lot of
the Wall Street wave that's coming. Oh boy, we're still waiting for that Wall Street wave to come. And him acknowledging you're going to probably see what happens in the digital asset space happen similarly to what's going on with fiat currencies. You're going to have 4 or 5 major type of digital assets running significant amount of volumes. We actually heard Sam Bankman-Fried say that in Ripple's recent swell event, saying that there's going to probably be about a handful or 4 major digital assets that are running significant trillions of dollars in volume, right? So same thing here with Chris Larsen being in the same page. It's just going to be a handful of digital assets running significant amounts of volume. And in a way, I feel like Chris Larsen was acknowledging the guy's question and saying, yeah, Stellar is going to probably be one of them, but it'll be complementary. It's going to be like an option. XRP, XLM will be probably one of those 4 or 5, or 2 of those 4 or 5 that are running significant volume through their platform.
Those institutions, they're not buying how many, 2,000 different.
Love it, man. The Wall Street wave that's coming. And he's saying they're not buying 2,000 different type of currencies. They're only focusing in on 4 of them.
5 majors, and then there's kind of a, you know, everything else. And I think that probably plays out here simply because, particularly with this sort of Wall Street wave that's coming, a lot of those institutions, they're not buying how many, 2,000 different, you know, kind of coins and platforms out there. They're sort of grabbing, I don't know, top 10 or 5, or it's some smaller number. And, you know, in currencies, liquidity begets liquidity. All of this is about how much liquidity is kind of supporting these platforms and these currencies or commodities, whatever you want to call them. There's still a lot of debate on what they actually are. So
still a lot of debate of what these currencies actually are, whether they're currencies or commodities, right? Talking about how this Wall Street wave is coming, and they're not looking to buy 2,000 different digital assets. They're just going to be majorly focusing on 4 or 5. So then let's try to figure out what those 4 or 5 could be. It feels like XRP and XLM are going to probably be 2 of them, right? So that leaves us with three other digital assets. What do we think those other 3 could be? Some people are going to probably say XDC, right? Some people will probably say just Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? So that's already 4. That would be 4 right there. And so what would be like the 5th or 6th one? Yeah, maybe XDC, maybe Algorand, maybe HBAR, or, you know, one of these other institutional focused type of cryptos. And then there's just everything else, right? And that doesn't mean that these other, you know, everything else type of cryptos couldn't have like billions or millions of dollars running through them. But for the major ones that, you know, he was just saying liquidity begets liquidity. And that's really what this is all about, is the liquidity, right? And Ripple with all their products, on-demand liquidity, and Ripple being heavily focused from day one to tackle that liquidity issue and using the digital asset XRP for that to be the liquidity hub, right? You know, all the products they've always made being focused on kind of water symbolism, liquidity type of symbolism. Nicholas M seeing XDC and CPH could be, man. I mean, CPH is a very, very interesting project. CPH, by the way, I am enthusiastic. I need to temper expectations on Cypherium just really quick here, you guys, because I don't want to I don't want to have a lot of people like just FOMOing because of like the type of information that I'm providing. I've been wrong before on a lot of other cryptos, and there is still some skepticism on CPH. I'm just saying that I do like throwing a little bit of money on Cypherium just in case if it is correct, right? Because it's a penny crypto. I don't mind speculating on it and seeing if it does grow to get more and more liquidity, more and more exchange listings, and it is following through with its collaborations that it does have, right? So I just want to, temper expectations with Cypherium because I know I'm really kind of spearheading this in the crypto space or amongst crypto YouTubers. I really don't see a lot of crypto YouTubers talk about Cypherium. So I don't want to be putting I'm not saying I'm putting my whole bag into Cypherium and that Cypherium is a definite win. Nothing's guaranteed in this space, but it's very interesting the way Cypherium is going about things, but it's not a guarantee. I could be majorly fooled, but they are very good at using all those buzzwords that we look for. CBDCs, ISO 20022 compliant, working, trying to, work with, the Federal Reserve or, the Fed Now payment service and the OMFIF and the Boston Consulting Group. I mean, there's a lot of appealing things to it. Blockchain Service Network, the BSN, right? So Cypherium definitely very appealing to me, but I don't want to, steer. Once again, I'm not telling you guys what to do. I'm just sharing the information and telling you what I'm doing. I'm not trying to get people to copy me or anything like that because I could be majorly wrong, and I have been majorly wrong about a lot of cryptos, right? So just throwing that out there. But yeah, CPH, fun crypto nonetheless. Very entertaining. But yeah, let's continue listening to the man, Chris Larson here. Let me rewind back a little bit.
All of this is about how much liquidity is kind of supporting these platforms and these currencies or commodities.
Yeah, DN, probably Algo, maybe XDC, maybe CPH. But yeah, trying to find out what those 5 digital assets are going to be, right, that drive major liquidity. And I'm sorry for continuously cutting off Chris Larson here because he's definitely dropping some awesome knowledge bombs right here. So let's just continue listening. I'm going to rewind back a good amount. Here we go.
Everything else. And I think that probably plays out here simply because, particularly with this sort of Wall Street wave that's coming, a lot of those institutions, they're not buying, 2,000 different, kind of coins and platforms out there. They're sort of grabbing, I don't know, top 10 or 5, or it's some smaller number. And, in currencies, liquidity begets liquidity. All of this is about how much liquidity is kind of supporting these platforms and these currencies or commodities, whatever you want to call them. There's still a lot of debate on what they actually are. So I suspect that's going to accelerate, and that liquidity then attracts more use cases. Like for example, Ripple, the company, focuses on the enterprise use case, but we see these things. We see XRP as very much a general global digital asset without a counterparty. So you'll see more and more use cases popping up from different angles, and that just kind of drives more liquidity. So I think that's probably the way in my opinion, how it pans out. But yeah.
So a lot of good stuff there. Him saying we view XRP as like kind of a global, no counterparty digital asset. So anybody can do whatever they will with that XRP, the XRP digital asset, and that could spur a lot of different use cases because it's such an efficient and fast type of crypto or a digital asset. I'm going to try to stop saying crypto, by the way, you guys, because it really is digital assets. That's what we're going to. It's a transformation and maturity era that we're in right now, where we're going from crypto and cryptocurrencies to digital assets and it being acknowledged as such, right? There might be a time where we say, yeah, it used to be called crypto, but really they're digital assets because they are tools to help value move quicker, to help information move quicker, healthcare, supply chain, all these other use cases. But when you have a digital asset that is very efficient, very fast, scalable, and highly liquid, it could spur a lot of different use cases. And that's what we're seeing being done with XRP and the XRPL. And, that's kind of the standard we hold a lot of other digital assets to, is do they do payments first very quickly? Because if so, then that's when you could do smart contracts. That's when you could do other type of use cases that they're aiming for, right?
Yeah, I think the reason we developed Interledger and the reason we built an interoperability protocol was because of that exact realization. It wasn't going to be everyone using one system. There was going to be a number of different systems. And actually, behind it is another realization, which is, my goal has always been, to solve the problem of, the friction in payments, right? And so I realized that decentralization wasn't necessarily the solution, because you see PayPal, they come out, they're free, then eventually they jack up their fees when they have an established market position. But then you see Bitcoin doing the same thing, not necessarily with as much sort of agency, but it still happens that way. And so what you got to think about is, right now, when you're on a payment network, you can only send money to the people on the same network. And that's kind of like pre-internet online services, where you could have like CompuServe, and you can email anyone on CompuServe, and you can use any services that are on CompuServe, but you can't access any services that are on Genie, right? And so CompuServe has this like moat. They have a defensibility around their reach. And so that's really what you gotta commoditize, or what you gotta attack. And so with payments, it's still that way today, where like if you're on the same payment network, you can pay each other. If you're on different networks, you can't. If you want.
And this is what we were talking about earlier, right? So far, there's only payments being done between trusted connections. There's no creating trust where there is none, right? Having that interoperability between different payment type of networks and allowing for those payments to happen regardless, whether they're trusted or untrusted, having a payment go through regardless, right? And those messaging standards, the ISO 20022 messaging standard and Interledger protocol and interoperability protocol that will allow for those payments to happen amongst untrusted connections, right? And so him saying, yeah, that's the same issue with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is trying to get everybody to be on the Bitcoin network, so then they can just only make, have only trusted connections because everybody's on the same network. But just like Coke, Pepsi, and all these other options that we have, how can we allow for interoperability among different ledgers, among different payment networks, right? And that's where you have this interoperability protocol coming in.
Want to pay from your PayPal account to a mobile money account in Tanzania, you're screwed, you can't. Yet I can totally go on my mobile phone in Tanzania and open any website in the world, right? So we need that kind of interoperability, and that's really what creates the competition that drives down the cost. The reason we think that XRP is going to have a role in this system is because we've been doing, not to toot our own horn too much, but like we've been doing really well in terms of like the performance and the characteristics of the protocol. So I think a lot of people will choose to use XRP if there is sort of a lot of competition. Whereas like right now you use Bitcoin even though it's expensive. You use Bitcoin even though it's slow. I think if there's a lot of competition, people will pick the most efficient, which would be XRP right now.
The most efficient, which would be XRP right now. What's up, Theod? Good to see you, Dual Citizen. Guys, thanks for hitting the likes on the way in. Thanks to any new subscribers to the channel. Appreciate you guys. We're just getting a refresher here on XRP, Interledger Protocol, and Ripple's mission, revisiting an oldie but goodie video. I think it's always good to just revisit this because you got two amazing contributors to Ripple and the XRPL here. And Stefan Thomas, this guy was a former Ripple former Ripple CTO, but also a former developer for Bitcoin. And he actually implemented JavaScript for Bitcoin and did a whole re-implementation of Bitcoin, right? So this guy knows the ins and outs of Bitcoin. Yeah, he's bullish on Bitcoin in terms of like being like a collectible or like this kind of, scarce resource, but it being this #1 utilized asset to establish payments or to allow for payments to happen instantly and across borders with no intermediary. That's where that's where the real innovation comes in. That's why he leaves developing for Bitcoin and just started developing with the XRPL and working with David Schwartz, working with Arthur Brito and Evan Schwartz, and creating Interledger protocol, this interoperability network, the ILP, the underlayer of value, the internet of value under the IP, the internet protocol. So the internet protocol is the standard that we all use, right? The standard for internet surfing and web access that we all have, right? So same thing in terms of the internet of value and the ILP, right? All having a standard for value transfer.
I mean, add that as well. It's kind of in an environment where a lot of the volume, I think, is speculative. I actually think that kind of use case has a greater tolerance for cost, speed, kind of doesn't really care, right? Whereas as you start getting into kind of these use cases where you need like, millions of some kind of unit, that matters a ton, right? So as the kind of the ratio of real.
Yeah, we're not even in the micropayments phase of this whole thing. That's what's so crazy, right? Like information and data, like even right now, there's so much information and data being sent in the milliseconds all across the web, right? But hell, there's not value that's going down like that, right? We don't have that yet, right? We're not even in that phase, right? The internet is still so damn young. Like, yeah, it's been 30 years since, the 90s and us really getting into the internet phase, and now we're starting to develop all these applications and social media going through its first, couple of waves already of maturity. There's still so much growth to happen. Obviously, metaverse now just in, having its inception, VR, augmented reality, all these other digital applications, and then progressing into this Web3 world now, and what's going to be the evolution of that. Like, there's still so much growth in terms of the internet, and we still don't even have a value layer to the internet. We got the messaging that's been established, right? But now we just don't have this value layer that's underneath it yet.
Real use cases to speculative volume changes, I think that dynamic becomes more important.
Right? When we start moving from speculative volume, which is still the era that we're in this crypto space, to actual use cases, what's that going to be like, right? Where you actually need, where millions micropayments are being made, millions of a penny or whatnot are being sent across different platforms, where you're streaming payments, where payments are becoming ubiquitous, basically. How is that going to go down?
Very true. I'm sorry.
Next question.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for coming.
Exactly, Nicholas M. Very well said. Most of us have no idea how early we are right now. In about 10 years, we'll be shocked by the amount of growth coming to pass. Exactly. There's still so much maturity and so much more growth and just levels to this thing. Like we were saying earlier, we're still transitioning from a cryptocurrency phase into actual digital asset phase, right? And we're not even in the internet of value at all yet, but we're seeing glimpses of what it could be like, right? Things like Coil, where, this channel is Coil enabled, and you could be streaming, millions of a penny to us, right? Or like minuscule, little micro amounts of money for every second that you're paying attention to this stream, right? Now imagine when you start having that level playing field amongst the major streaming platforms, like, the Amazons, the Apple Pluses, the Disney Pluses, and Netflix. Imagine if you didn't have to do this whole subscription model and remembering all these different type of passwords for all these different types of accounts. What if you just paid your internet provider a certain amount monthly, and then from there on, you're just streaming payments to every website, every platform, or streaming service that you're using, and it's, just streaming little bits of a penny, and it's really making you conscious of what you actually want to pay attention to, what content is actually worth your attention, right? It could actually help with the fake news type of stuff too, where you're showing that, not up, I guess, like, in a lack of a better word, like kind of upvoting good content, because like a lot of people actually want to pay attention to that content. It can there's like a lot of benefits that can come from micropayments in terms of the internet of value, right? Of what you actually want to be paying. It's funny because it is called paying attention, right? But you're going to be paying micropayments for your attention to these things. So then it would actually give like Netflix, because there's a bunch of people who have Netflix and don't even really watch Netflix, but they're paying Netflix monthly, right? And so it would even help advertisers even know how to advertise to you more, because they know that, whoa, this person is actually paying attention to this content, right? Or, this person's actually watching the whole movie versus just parts of a movie and then changing to another film and stuff. It can give so much more information of how to create better products. all in all. Before we go into this next guy's question, I just want to keep reading the chat here. Jim D, the breathers, according to Biden and Bill Gates and executive CSC director, they are soon paycheck. They know for sure there will be a second situation to prepare for 10 to 50% car. Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy, Lucy B. AI. I mean, yeah, AI, machine-to-machine payments. What's up, SubGod123? It's been a while since seeing you, man. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Once again, guys, thanks for hitting the likes. Thanks to any new subscribers to the channel. Let's keep going on. Let's hear this next question.
My question's around, so if you're talking about
what's going on here? What happened?
A ton, right? So as the
Why can't we hear volume?
Ratio of real use cases to speculative.
What the is YouTube shadow banning us right now? Here, let me close some windows up. All right, let me reload this. We were at 36:33.
We talked to people, hey, let's
because they know that.
What happened to the volume?
You can't buy it. Money.
Why aren't we getting volume now?
Be built around
Can you guys hear me?
I think that there's definitely an opportunity.
Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. Now I hear. Okay, we were at 36:33. Here we go. Now I can hear, guys. Sorry for that little technical misstep there. All right.
Of real use cases to speculative volume changes, I think that dynamic becomes more important. Very true. Oh, sorry.
Next question.
Cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for coming. My question's around, so if you're talking about that XRP and cryptos are the internet of money, the big difference between money and data is that money is regulated, and banks certainly, if they were the equivalent of running the phone lines before, have a pretty big incentive to innovate and sort of get ahead of a change that is coming. So you could see them easily upgrading the SWIFT protocol to be able to move money internationally a lot quicker. And so I'm curious how you guys see specifically XRP living in a more regulated space. I think, crypto sort of took the world by storm, and governments are going to certainly respond the next year or two. So why do you think that XRP is going to be able to live in a much more regulated industry than data is, especially because you could see banks upgrading SWIFT to be able to support, maybe sub-minute transactions instead of transactions that take days?
Yeah, I want to quickly question some of the premises in there. So I think a lot of the people in the room, I think, are very young, and so we grew up after the deregulation of data. So the internet came out, and a lot of the laws that were around before then, copyright law, cryptography laws, export restrictions around algorithms, things of that nature, actually got removed, and their safe harbors got created because the internet kind of posed a technology that was, on the one hand, very useful, and on the other hand, kind of in a legal gray area. So I think that the technology, just if you use it, it just feels so incredibly useful that it's hard to imagine how regulations wouldn't be built around it. I think that there's definitely an opportunity for people to be thoughtful and intelligent about how they approach the technology in the meantime. You want to be compliant, you want to do everything that you can to kind of stay within the letter of the law, but there are going to be ambiguities in terms of just the law is not written for these kinds of use cases. So I think that's one thing. And then as far as XRP, I think I'll hand it off to Chris.
Yeah. So as we are seeing right now, there's no monetary policy or description for digital assets yet, and this is what we're dealing with the Ripple and SEC, and maybe why it's being dragged out so long. And then we're also seeing clues from the BIS, from the IMF, for the urgency to have monetary policy change, right? To have these shifts in monetary policy, right? And this is probably what Stefan Thomas is foreshadowing, is that this technology is extremely useful. Distributed ledger technology is extremely useful, but we don't have laws for it, right? We don't have laws for this internet of value. And they were using it as a similar experience with the deregulation of data, and how kind of regulations started to come about that were working with it or working around it to try to, complement it, right? And that's probably where we're seeing here in this really kind of transformative era going from cryptos to digital assets, from speculation to use case, from non-regulated to regulated era. And, these regulations, these policies are still trying to be formed, or maybe they know what the policies need to be, but they're still waiting also for who creates these policies, right? The central banks. So still waiting for the global banking system to still migrate over to ISO 20022 messaging standard, to test these digital distributed ledger technologies, to test the ISO 20022 messaging standard in tandem with things like Interledger Protocol and other payment rails as well, right? So it's a big testing period, it seems like, this decade, 2020 to 2030, for example, or maybe 2025. We'll see if it's a half decade transition or not. Chi-Town in the house. What's up, Chi-Town? Good to see you. So yeah, a very good answer there, because it seemed like that guy who was bringing the question is what a lot of people would ask, right? It's like, what stops Swift from just, transforming their adjusting to a digital payment type of platform, and instead of taking days, it just takes minutes or whatnot. And then what's the purpose of XRP then, right? And he just brought it, he just brought the hammer down on it in that answer. But let's hear what Chris Larson has to say here.
Yeah, I mean, you're raising, obviously, a key part. And as I mentioned before, the Internet of Value is kind of equal parts capital, technology, and compliance. Compliance is hugely important. And the reason is simple. I think it's just because governments sort of want to have a monopoly. I think it's actually a question of, data is powerful, but money's more powerful, right? Data can show you, a life-saving medicine that your family might need. You can't buy it. Money can buy it. On the flip side, data can encourage a terrorist to do something awful. Money can buy the weapons, right? So the stakes are higher, which I think actually this is going to have maybe a more profound effect on Earth, good and bad. So regulators have got to be there every step of the way. This fantasy that somehow this is going to bypass governments and bypass compliance, you know what? That's just BS. And you know what?
He really wanted to say bullshit right there. He started getting caught up in it. He's like, crypto's not, just in the same way like Napster and all these like downloading platforms and torrent platforms, trying to bypass, the copyright restrictions and copyright laws and all these type of things. Like, they're not sure, there's still people who torrent and download their music and all this type of things, but you don't even really need to now in this day and age. You could just check out whatever song you want and download it or like, check it out on YouTube or something, or Spotify, and you don't even have to pay anything, right? So it's interesting how the access like changes, but also just like this, it always starts out as like this anti-government perspective with these technologies, or like the people who are embracing these technologies at least have that anti-government perspective, but then it eventually evolves into, being regulated, and then the masses using it, right? But yeah, let's go back to his answer here.
Life-saving medicine that your family might need. You can't buy it. Money can buy it. On the flip side,
what's up, Legendary? How you doing, man? Good to see you.
Data can encourage a terrorist to do something awful. Money can buy the weapons, right? So the stakes are higher, which I think actually this is going to have maybe a more profound effect on Earth, good and bad. So regulators have got to be there every step of the way. This fantasy that somehow this is going to bypass governments and bypass compliance, you know what? That's just BS. And you know what? Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. That is a champagne problem with a bunch of rich young people that can sit there behind their computer screens and like block out a lot of bad things that can happen. So it just can't go that way. And so I think we're trying to think about that, try to be pragmatic about that, because that's the only way we're going to have impact. And if you look at people that are trying to support what's going on in the developing world, they are very much wanting to work. They're not trying to go around. They're trying to work within the system, because they know that's how you're going to have impact. So that's kind of the way we see it. Your question about Swift, by the way, the problem with that point of view is Swift only deals with the data. They have a correspondent banking partner that deals with the value, and that's off any sense of an Internet of Value. The whole point here is that something like Interledger and XRP can eliminate the correspondent, which is actually where all the juice is, right? That's where all the waste is. That's where the settlement risk is, that's where the failures are, that's where the time is. So Swift actually doesn't have the combination of capabilities to do what you're saying.
They just destroyed that guy, by the way. They destroyed that guy with their answer because they know the ins and outs of it. And I think this guy who asked the question was coming from, obviously he's not even involved really in the banking sector. It doesn't seem like, at least. Doesn't really understand how it works, doesn't understand really how Swift works, probably just has a very general idea of it. So he was just trying to ask him, what's the point of having XRP and Ripple if Swift can just eventually evolve to do what Ripple and XRP are doing? And then Chris Larson just educated him on what Swift actually does and its dependence on a correspondent bank to help with the value transfer aspect of it, right? And, kind of saying, yeah, Swift just focuses on the messaging of it, and it's archaic technology. And Swift even realizes that, and hence why they're switching to Swift GPI. But at the same time, they still are depending on intermediaries for the value transfer, whereas using something like an interledger protocol or, an interledger protocol standard in tandem with an ISO 20022 standard, it just allows for value transfer without even having to acknowledge the intermediaries, right?
Sorry, thank you for the question.
That's a pretty cool demo, and I just wanted to learn a little bit behind the scene, like for example, the AI, who built the AI, how the money goes to the AI chatbot.
Okay, so we built a protocol that kind of takes Interledger on the one side and takes HTTP on the other side. And essentially, you're making REST calls, so you're making API calls to these backends. And the first time you make the call, they'll respond with 402 payment required, which is a sort of an error code in HTTP that was already reserved. And we were like, great, that works for our use case. And basically, it sends you back a header that tells you all the information that you need to know to make Interledger payments to that exact endpoint or like the API.
So sorry, I didn't mean to cut him off here, but Nicholas sent me a pretty good point as well. On the other side with the micropayments thing, not only are those content platforms getting paid for you paying attention to it by the millisecond or micropayments by and by the second of your attention, you're also getting paid for viewing the content as well, right? And that's or for also maybe somebody using your specs. Like, for example, if you're interested in certain products or, are interested in, I don't know, certain foods or, just certain products, and somebody saying, hey, I like the way that they go about things or the type of products that they're buying, and, sending a tip or, paying attention to that person and how they're going about it, them receiving payments. Like, this whole ubiquitous payment world is definitely not here yet. And it's hard to imagine what that could be. Especially, what like at what extent will micropayments just be heavily used, and how it goes about, we can only imagine. But yeah, great point there, Nicholas M, as well. Just want to know if everybody's alive out there. I'm not seeing too much activity in the chat, but I'm assuming that you guys are just really paying attention to this video that we're checking out. So I just want to say thank you to everybody watching. Thanks to the 13 viewers. Thanks for the 23 likes. I mean, we always have such a handful of viewers watching this content, but I know you guys really care about Interledger Protocol, ISO 20022, and really what's going on with Ripple, XRP, Stellar, XLM, or, all these like kind of digital assets that are really trying to make, institutional adoption happen and trying to work with regulators, trying to, be part of the digital transformation and the future of digital finance. Anime Wolf saying, we're lurking. All good, man. All good. Thank you guys so much. Okay, let's keep going.
API server that runs that endpoint. And so that server will be listening for Interledger packets in addition to the HTTP requests. And so when you start paying, it'll go back into that same receiver, and then the receiver will then credit your, what we call like a token. And then the next time you make a request, it has in the header your token, and so the receiver will know that you've actually funded that with some packets, and then you can proceed through the program. The streaming version of the demo that you saw, that's a little bit more complicated. This probably goes a little bit beyond, but we can maybe catch up about it later. And then one thing that's also interesting is that one of the services, which is the thing that builds a static site into a Docker container, actually itself pays another API, right? So you have another API behind that. And so one of the things that's really cool is with these streaming payments, we can actually have sort of an API that takes in money and then immediately spends it as it's trying to process the request, and then maybe sends a little bit as profit to the developer, and then returns the result. So there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with it.
Great, thanks.
Thank you guys for coming to speak today. I'm kind of curious to learn more about how you might prevent money laundering and companies that participate in, like the payday loan type companies from coming on the system that exploit people financially. I'm interested to learn more about that sort of thing.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we really try to focus on kind of the bottom of the payment stack, so kind of on the infrastructure part of it. And again, a reason for that is that a lot of the things that prevent bad things from happening are kind of top of the stack. And a lot of that actually doesn't need to be reinvented, right? And the way we kind of think of it is like, let's focus on what's really changing. And we think this is the interoperability. It's the idea of a digital asset with no counterparty that can be sent anywhere in the world that's neutral. So those are the things I think what we can change, and then piggyback off of this is what we like kind of the enterprise focus now is for that as that first beachhead. Piggyback off of what already exists for hundreds of millions, of people. The other thing I would say is that if this Internet of Value becomes a reality, I think the prevention of things like payday lending, obviously that has to be regulated. That's a big part of it at every level. But the other big thing to what Stefan mentioned before is sort of the commoditization of reach. If you have that, you suddenly now, every market has way more competitors for financial products. And it was something we saw at Prosper and Elon we got frustrated with because we were kind of US only. You couldn't transport it to another market because you were in another network, right? This future vision, I think, is that the world is one big financial supermarket, and everybody's competing in every market. I think that goes a long way, but you still need all the other, kind of regulatory components pretty much existing. Some may go away, but I'd say probably most of them don't. I don't know what you want to add to that. But.
Yeah, I think like with you mentioned anti-money laundering. I think there's sort of a long list of things that are actually completely separate issues, right? There's sort of consumer risk. There is anti-money laundering. There is anti-terrorism, finance. Like there's all kinds of different things that you have to think about when you're building a payment system. And so if you have a stack like this, they'll fit in different parts of the stack. Like for instance, consumer protection, that would fit in the application layer. So if you're building an application where consumers are sending money, you have to think about how to protect those consumers from sending it to the wrong people. If you think about risk, like counterparty risk, that would fit in the sort of the ledger layer, right? So you have a counterparty, they settle with you on a certain schedule. How do you make sure they actually settle with you? So there are a myriad of things to think about. I think that it's kind of illusory for us to come up with all the solutions. I think we're trying to be thoughtful in terms of like getting it to a point where we can start experimenting with it and kind of get more experience with it. But that's going to require sort of a commercialization of the technology to really think about all of those use cases. And I would also highlight that Ripple has a commercial stack and a commercial feature set, and that is very much like Chris said, kind of riding within the existing regulatory framework. And then we have the open protocols, which are maybe a little bit more forward-looking, and I think some of those questions are more difficult there. So what you saw us present today is the more forward-looking stuff. So I think some of those questions are still open there.
Right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. So since the tech is currency agnostic, what would be the incentive to choose XRP over fiat or any other cryptocurrency?
So this is where I'd almost love to ask my colleague up on stage, because we have our team who's actually trying to integrate with these different digital assets and different payment systems, and it's just many orders of magnitude of difference between XRP and, let's say, Bitcoin. And still several orders of magnitude between XRP and something like Litecoin, which is known as a more efficient sort of asset. And it's just a pleasure to work with, and part of it is it's been designed for that, right? Like it's been designed to be used as the settlement asset in Interledger, and so has a lot of function.
It's been designed to be the settlement asset in Interledger. So then when we were bringing up with universal mode using XRP by default between untrusted connections, this is what Stefan Thomas is saying, that XRP from the very beginning, hell, Interledger protocol was probably created that by them saying, hey, we have this amazing digital asset that can settle payments within seconds. We got an amazing community of developers and also, you know, a great ledger that's pretty efficient and easy to work on. You know, what else could we use it for? And then they come up with something with Interledger, right, that can allow for interoperability, a language for all types of payments across the globe. You know, it just becomes such an efficient asset, and then it's more efficient than something like an Ethereum, more efficient than something like a BTC to use to settle these payments for value transfer, right? Like setting, and of course them setting up, he's going to say this, setting up connectors, right? Setting up the infrastructure in such a way where XRP just becomes the best option to use out of any other digital asset, because Ripple has been educating all these central banks on the distributed ledger technology, on the XRPL, right? How to use it, how to implement Interledger protocol, how to, you know, migrate over to ISO 20022, for example, right? So let's get back to that. Let's start off with that question one more time.
So since the tech is currency agnostic, what would be the incentive to choose XRP over fiat or any other cryptocurrency?
So this is where I'd almost love to ask my colleague up on stage, because you know, we have our team who's actually trying to integrate with these different digital assets and, you know, different payment systems, and it's just like a many orders of magnitude of difference between XRP and, let's say, Bitcoin, and still several orders of magnitude between XRP and something like Litecoin, which is known as a more efficient sort of asset, and like. It's just a pleasure to work with, and part of it is it's been designed for that, right? Like it's been designed to be used as the settlement asset in Interledger, and so has a lot of functionality like payment channels built in a certain way that are incredibly efficient for this particular use case. And so I think the big answer, the main answer is right now it's just the best thing to use. Like we talk to people, hey, let's set up a connector. Well, what do we peer with? Well, we could use Litecoin, or we could use XRP, but XRP will just be cheaper. So let's use XRP. And so I think as much, to the extent that like these connectors are going to be competing with each other and they're trying to think about their margins, XRP is just going to look like a very good option for them.
Yeah, in this world, you'll need some digital asset that is super fast, super cheap, endlessly scalable. That will serve the world very well, right?
Super fast, super cheap, endlessly scalable.
Better than, let's say, using a dollar or using a euro, right? Something that is neutral to any network. So
neutral to any network to allow for interoperability amongst networks.
So we're absolutely confident that some digital asset will be a key part of this Internet of Value. But we think that sort of fast, cost and scalability are going to be those key things, and that's what's going to drive the liquidity that's going to make these things really useful.
Yeah, and like XRP is not static either. It's like we're constantly thinking about how to help improve it. There's a community out there that's thinking about how to improve it. So you can expect that it will get better as well as time goes on.
Final question.
Getting better and better as time goes on. Can only imagine how much better the XRPL has gotten since this interview in 2018, by the way.
Hi. So I was listening in the very beginning of your presentation about how you think XRP is better over Bitcoin, in the sense that Bitcoin is a lot slower, a lot more expensive. But it is there for a reason, right? Because it requires like at least 6 confirmation across the network in order for a transaction to happen, and that is there in order to address the double spending problem. So I was just curious, like in your own words, how does that XRP address the double spend problem if it's just a confirmation between the 2 nodes?
Yeah. So if you're not technical, please do something else for a little bit, because there's no way to answer that question without getting into some of the technology. So Bitcoin uses a
Very funny that the guy I feel like the guy who asked him this question doesn't know that Stefan Thomas was an early Bitcoin developer. But either way.
Consensus process, which is essentially based around the assumption that a majority of hashing power will never be held by a coordinated malicious attacker. And so if you're watching what the majority of hashing power is doing, you'll tend to be on a state of the network that is reasonable and doesn't contain reverted transactions and so on. However, the protocol as such does allow rollbacks, right? So you can, if somebody else presents you with a chain that's longer, has more hashing power behind it, you will roll back your transactions and switch to that. And I know that because I was one of the first people to implement a full node Bitcoin reimplementation from scratch.
One of the first, right there already, he's like, okay, I got to tell this guy I used to be a former Bitcoin developer and I implemented a full re-implementation of Bitcoin from scratch. And I could tell him that Bitcoin allows for rollbacks, right?
So I wrote that code, and it's very complex, annoying code to write. So I will remember that forever. Tend to be on.
We got to go back to the beginning. We got to go back to the beginning of this because it's too good.
And that is there in order to address the double spending problem. So I was just curious, like in your own words, how does that XRP address the double spend problem if it's just a confirmation between the two nodes?
Yeah. So if you're not technical, please, do something else for a little bit. Because there's no way to answer that question without getting into some of the technology. So Bitcoin uses a consensus process, which is essentially based around the assumption that a majority of hashing power will never be held by a coordinated malicious attacker. And so if you're watching what the majority of hashing power is doing, you'll tend to be on a state of the network that is reasonable and doesn't contain reverted transactions and so on. However, the protocol as such does allow rollbacks, right? So you can, if somebody else presents you with a chain that's longer, has more hashing power behind it, you will roll back your transactions and switch to that. And I know that because I was one of the first people to implement a full node Bitcoin reimplementation from scratch. So I wrote that code, and it's very complex, annoying code to write. So I will remember that forever. On the Ripple side, such code does not exist. There's no way to roll back the network. Now, how is that possible? Well, the way that Ripple works is, as I mentioned before, the users select these validators, and then we essentially use that input as an input to sort of an algorithm where we look at the graph of what people selected, and then we run a consensus on validators that are central to that graph, or that are highly trusted within that graph. And so it's sort of this two-step process. And what that means is that when the first step is complete and you have identified which validators you're looking for, you don't have to worry about there being like more hashing power just over the horizon. Like once you hear from the validators that you've identified as being the ones that are validating, or like the ones that you're listening to, then you don't have to worry about some other validator coming in later saying like, no, actually we decided this, you just didn't hear about it yet. And so there's no need to roll back or to rewrite history. Once validators have committed to a decision, they can't change their minds essentially. And so that has a couple of impacts, or like a couple of ways that the protocol is different because of that. Number one, you only have to wait for one confirmation. You wouldn't wait for multiple confirmations because validators can't change their mind. You can't roll back, so there's no probabilistic aspect to it. Number two is we can process, or we can create blocks on a cadence, so we can create blocks on like a fixed interval, as opposed to a random interval like Bitcoin, where blocks can come out very close together, or there could be no block for a long time. Because we know which validators are supposed to generate blocks, they can generate them on that cadence. And then finally, I think, did I cover everything?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. There's a really good talk on, I shouldn't call it really good, but there's a talk by myself on consensus that you can find from the Consensus 2017 conference, where I go into a little bit more detail. And I'm also happy to talk to you afterwards, but that's kind of the high level, quick description.
And that's really what sets XRPL apart from, originally it being the second crypto or the first real digital asset that went in towards focusing on the enterprise use cases and working with regulators, versus something like BTC, where BTC could allow for rollbacks. XRPL can't allow for rollbacks. And so it allows for, but in order to have something like that where it doesn't allow for rollbacks, you need to set up a web of validators, of trusted validators, right? With BTC, it's like these mining companies are a majority of, I guess you can call the validators of that platform, right? And you don't know what their intentions are, right? You don't even know who the original creators of BTC are and what their ultimate intentions are. But with the XRPL, them trying to set up a global validator system of trusted entities, right? The central banks, right? The institutions that are supporting it, right? You know they're going to be, and like the way they secure their nodes, right? If you guys have seen where like some of these validator nodes are being hosted and how they're being protected and the type of security that they have around these XRPL validator nodes across the world, it's very, very impressive. Like these are the these are the adults in the room when it comes to XRPL versus a lot of other blockchain projects, right? And in terms of how to achieve true decentralization, but also how to guarantee no rollbacks as well, which is such a pivotal thing. The fact that Bitcoin can allow for rollbacks, and we've seen instances of that before. Remember when Binance had a major incident, or there was that major Binance hack in the past, and CZ Binance basically had to shave his head because he developed so many gray hairs from that, and having to basically roll back the Bitcoin blockchain in order to like save themselves, right? So this is a big point that Stefan Thomas was driving home here, in the differences between the XRPL and it not having to wait for multiple confirmations in order to execute a transaction, and having, and the time varying amongst those confirmations in Bitcoin, whereas with XRP, it's at a fixed interval. If it doesn't happen within 3 to 5 seconds, it doesn't happen at all, right? And, you would just basically have to redo the transaction, but you wouldn't be rolling back the network.
Cool. Chris.
Said that, yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for coming. Do you have any final statements, or do you want to tell people how they can get involved in the Ripple community at all?
Yeah, so for Interledger, there's interledger.org, which at the time of recording is horribly out of date, but hopefully by next week should be, showing all the latest greatest stuff. There's a community group at the W3C called the Interledger Community Group that's open to anyone to just register. We have a mailing list where we discuss, how all these protocols work together. All the code for, the demos and everything, you can find that on github.com/Interledger and /interledger.js. And then for Ripple, ripple.com, if you're a bank, let us know. Reach out if you're a payment provider. Maybe if you work for Google Payments or anything like that, let us know. And then there's another project which we didn't really mention today, but that's also was also used in the demo in the background, which is called Codia. So that's basically the hosting system that's paid with Interledger, and we uploaded the website to it. There's a lot of cool use cases around hosting, if you think about serverless hosting, etc. So if you're into that, there's codius.org as well, codius.org.
Awesome. Chris, Stefan, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate it. Give it up for them.
So I hope you guys enjoyed revisiting this segment, and I hope it just, keeps reinforcing what the mission of Ripple is, what the difference between Ripple, XRP, and Interledger. Ripple highly focused on creating the central bank consortium, right? The RippleNet, the ODL, right? And then Interledger focused on not only banks, but every type of ledger that is out there. Internet companies, the W3C, the World Wide Web, and allowing for interoperability between banks. And basically another thing that's going down is like you're trying to see these payment companies like the PayPals, the Googles, the Amazons trying to kind of create their own banking services in a way, or their own payment services in a way. And how can that be interoperable with the banks, right? And that's where Interledger starts to come in, where it allows for ledgers of all types to speak the same language, to have that interoperability, so payments could be going across in and out of bank to payment provider to payment services and whatnot. So it's a really, really big mission that they're undertaking. And remember, this was in 2018. I can only imagine the amount of ground they have covered up to this point. So anyways, we're going to be ending it on here on this note, guys. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for another DL Talk. We went on for about 2 hours plus, and thank you guys so much for showing the support, hitting the likes, and for any new subscribers on the channel. You guys are amazing. Jim D saying XRP, XLM, HBAR are the best of breed mathematical theory algorithms. Yeah, and maybe even Algorand being thrown into that equation as well, and maybe perhaps Solana. But you know, that's neither here nor there. Definitely those three are amazing. Jim D, thanks G for showcasing that segment. I never saw it before. Great curating, bro. No worries, man. Thank you. And you know, I love showing that segment because we revisited this a lot in the channel, but it's great to understand how Interledger, you know, because a lot of people have that argument with Interledger. It's like, well, Interledger's currency agnostic, so why are we even bringing up XRP? It doesn't need XRP. No, it does need XRP because XRP, you know, Interledger has set up specific connectors. And remember, 2 different modes of transactions. Atomic mode, which is among trusted parties, so they can transact with whatever they want. But either way, the best option, why would you decide, like, yeah, if you're a trusted party, that means you're on maybe a similar payment network and you're just Bitcoin maxis and you want to use BTC, but you're also, you know, dealing with BTC's fees and how slow it is. So why not just use XRP that can allow for instant settlement and, you know, very cheap fees to send the value instantly? But the second mode, universal mode, using XRP because the connectors are set up in such a way to just guarantee settlement among the untrusted connections. And that's what's really important. I'll say it once again, creating trust where there isn't none, right? So anyways, thank you guys so much. Thanks for all the support. As always, y'all, much love to the Blue Crew, the Green Giants, and Ledger citizens. Always grateful. Thank you, BTC community, XRP community, DLT community, crypto communities, Blue Crew, Green Giants, Ledger citizens, and all the communities out there. The future is distributed ledger technology, and the future is bright. Our future is bright. I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios. Ledger City in 2 days, guys. Get ready. Exciting times. Much love. Peace out.